really out here just trying to do what I can to make you proud. All right now, I'll check in with you. That was the ancestors calling. And listen, it matters that I answer every time because I'm trying to make sure that I do at my shows as much as I can to continue their work. Which is why I'm partnering with Headcount to get as many voters registered as possible at my shows before the midterms.
Our next guest is not only smart, funny, and black, she really is that girl. Amanda Seals, welcome to the BGS House. Hey, y'all. Oh, yeah. I feel like we can't even do a show called Black Girl Stuff without having Amanda Seals.
Oh, my gosh. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, Amanda, let's jump right into it. It's no secret that you have always been all things unapologetic. But now you're stepping up, trying to get, and being very transparent about getting people out to vote. Tell us why that's so important to you and how we can change the mindset of millennials, because a lot of millennials feel like, what's the point of voting?
I think the best way to describe it is you got your crib, right? You live in your crib. But somebody else is determining when you cook in your crib, what you decorate your crib with, what you're allowed to have in your crib. First of all, you already got to deal with that when you have a landlord. That's what you're actually dealing with when you are electing officials that are making decisions about your life. And I feel like not enough of us understand the power that we are giving folks when we do not choose who we put in power. I think we get so caught up in like the president and like, don't get me wrong, that's important, but y'all, these positions that are local, whether it's the district attorney, whether it's the comptroller, whether it's the people that are on the school district board, whether it is your secretary of state, your state senator, all of that, I know I'm saying the words and y'all are like, this sounds like school.
No, you break it down too. You actually break it down for our Generation Z followers and the lies we tell ourselves about voting. I really learned a lot about that, and I like how you like incorporate a little hip hop in it, so it's not so like school. You know what I mean?
I try.
You did a good job.
I
You compared it
tried.
to the movie talking about the butt cheek, like the movie was alive, girl, and I never watched Alive, but the way she described it, if you couldn't choose between a candidate, you have to make a moral decision for the best, like for the group.
Listen,
instead of not voting.
People are still on my head because they're like, you wanted us to vote for Joe Biden. You were pressuring us to vote for Joe Biden. It's like, no. What I was saying was we need to collectively vote for this other option because this option is going to be a bigger problem. I really just want to see black folks change our culture by involving civics into our culture. In the 60s, the civil rights movement, like, people put their lives, their bodies on the line for the right to vote. So even if you're like, my vote don't matter, I don't care, whatever, at least just think about like, however, somebody really did die. If voting didn't matter, they would not put so much effort into you not being able to vote.
There we go. That part, that's what makes me show up every time. I know y'all don't want me to do. So
When did you decide that this was not only a passion of yours, but something, raising awareness is something that you really wanted to focus in on?
But I feel like it was never a decision. Like, I think I grew up in a household where my mom was always somebody that was looking at authority with a side eye and was like, let me look into that, you know? My mother's from Grenada, and just as an island, we're a very revolutionary people. You know, everyone in Grenada has a political opinion about everything, right? Like the person selling you some coconut water and the person at the courthouse, both of them have a very strong opinion that they're going to share with you, whether you like it or not. So that's a part of just like the culture that I grew up with in my house, right? But then my mom also had me in just a lot of activities with other Black American children and just getting exposure into that space. I felt like I was always made very aware that like we are revolutionary people in America and that we need to continue to always fight and put ourselves first, and our identity needs to be strong. So I feel like it was built into my value system. And then over time, I just got more dedicated to building it into my career and into my actual methodology of how I live.
What do you think about cancel culture, right? I mean, people who are really vocal, I mean, sometimes people can go off the deep end. I'm not naming any names, but I mean, what is your stance on that? Do you feel like some people just deserve to be permanently canceled, or should we always have this option of forgiveness when it comes to people who are very vocal, candid about social justice, anything?
Well, I think forgiveness is something that people have to ask for. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Black people, we have oftentimes, so many of us, like, exercise this posture of forgiveness based on teachings that we were taught that weren't meant to empower us, but that were actually meant to make us more docile. And so we end up feeling like, oh, like there's power in forgiveness. And I know that there are people that are watching, like, there is power in forgiveness because it's freedom. And I'm not saying that you can't, in your heart, decide, like, I'm not gonna let this anger me anymore. I'm not gonna let this rule me anymore. But I do feel like sometimes what forgiveness gets misconstrued as is someone not having to be held accountable.
There we go.
And like, you can forgive, but baby, don't forget. Like, you know, so I think cancel culture is really just this concept that when people say things that are maybe wrong or incorrect, et cetera, that they need to answer to the world. And the problem, though, is that the world that's challenging them oftentimes is made up of completely fallible humans. Like, everybody is absolutely, like, messing up at least once a day in some form or fashion, right? I don't really subscribe to the idea of cancel culture. I think if we don't have redemptive culture, then how can those two really exist?
To that point, I actually want to talk to you a little bit about the comedy space, because I feel like that has gone through a complete evolution just over the years, and now there's more of a social responsibility to, you know, be more considerate.
I mean, I think comedy, like any art form, is reflective of the society that it's in. So there's big changes that have happened within our society in the last 20 years, particularly with language, and comedy is a language medium, you know?
Absolutely.
So there's that. There's also just like, comedy is about analyzing what's going on, like looking at the social realities of what's going on. And we have seen so many changes in our social understanding of literally just people, right? Pronouns and the trans movement, and even just understanding mental health in a different way. And we have to have a certain level of grace, I feel, to give people in adjusting to that process. That being said, I do feel like there's certain folks who just don't give a damn. You feel me? And so that's whether you a comic or not, like that's your brand, that's your brand. You know, I'm somebody who, I don't give all the dams. I don't give all the dams. But I give a number of dams. I give a, and so that, you know, that ends up being just a part of my process. Ultimately, though, I think folks miss the mark in understanding that, like, comedy is about making people laugh. And that's never been a space of, like, complete high vibration. It just isn't. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have a voice to be like, I didn't like that. That wasn't cool. Absolutely. But I think this idea that it's like, and so, you know, you should or shouldn't say this, that becomes a slippery slope. I think at the end of the day, you try and just let people know, like, that was inappropriate. There was a better way of doing that. You could have handled this differently. And you hope that they take the note. And if they don't, then you don't have to support them. I feel like I haven't had to do much adjusting in that space just because of the style of comedy I do. Like, you know, my jokes is really, I'm gonna talk about relationships, I'm gonna talk about social commentary, and ultimately I'm gonna just try and find a way to, like, make folks laugh at the absolute trash that's happening and make them think at the same time, you know, like, while you laughing, it's like, ha ha ha, and then I slide it in. You know, you're like, oh,
She got a point.
exactly.
Now, Amanda, you know we have to discuss your comedy tour, Black Outside Again. Which, by the way, I love that title.
Me too.
Your shows have been selling out across the country. What has this tour really meant to you, and what can we expect to see? Like, spill the tea, sis. Make people go and click purchase.
This tour really meant to me, like, oh, I need to get off my couch and get black outside again. I need to stop sitting down and stand up and tell these jokes because there was so much that started to happen in the world, and I was like, oh, I need to like actually get back in front of folks and start talking about things because I think a lot of folks feel like I feel, but they may not have people in their circle that feel the same way, so they feel like, damn, am I bugging? Like, am I crazy? But then when I come on stage and I say it to them, they like, I'm seen! I feel seen! What we've also been doing is we've been registering folks to vote at the shows, and we have been ending every show by bringing up an organizer from that community to talk about the work they're doing, why they're doing it, and how the audience can get involved. I'm really trying to just make sure that I continue this trend of using my platform in a bigger way, which is what I'm also going to be doing on my new radio show on Radio 1, The Amanda Seales Show. But you know, really just trying to build my own space to give people hard news with a soft landing.
Thank you so much, Amanda Seales, for sitting down with us and spreading all these gems and wisdom all throughout the BGS house. Now, you got to catch Amanda on tour. Please head over to amandaseales.com and get your tickets today.